Okay, guys, in a previous video, we had talked about how the king of Babylon, he had the years of the king of Babylon, the king of Nebuchadnezzar, were triggered by 9/11. And those years would have brought us, 19 years after that year, would have brought us into the apocalypse and many apocalyptic things. We found this out through Benjamin Netanyahu being removed from office around the same time as King Zedekiah historically was captured by the king of Babylon. Okay, now we knew that Zedekiah he made the peace deal. Okay, in Ezekiel 17 with the Antichrist. Okay, we also know that it was during that time of 1.5 years that the daily sacrifice was taken, and this was evidence that we've seen, further proof. So guys, we had a previous video we posted on YouTube. We called it 5 Proofs We're in the Tribulation. And a couple of those proofs, we used the year 1948. Well, in this video, we're going to prove 6 proofs we're in the tribulation. And we don't need the state of Israel. We don't need 1948. We can prove it by other ways. And we showed you in the previous video our further proof by the years of the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, okay? Our trigger event, okay, which brought us precisely to this time, where in this time we would have the mark of the beast, okay? We would have the siege of Jerusalem, people being locked into their houses, okay? So guys, we are in the time of the end. This is just what we're trying to emphasize, okay? I know there's a lot of opinions, and even you guys that, of course, if you're watching this, you're familiar with the channel, okay, but you use language like, okay, this is Leland's timeline, okay, so that, okay, well, this is Leland's timeline, this is so-and-so's timeline, everybody has a timeline, okay, but what you're going to see is that this is not Leland's timeline, and I prefer that you don't use that, use my name, because we can see this is the king's timeline. This is an actual biblical timeline. Now, there's things we're going to share. We're going to show you further proof of what we discovered. So once we discovered that King Zedekiah was Netanyahu, and those years applied, okay, to the king of Babylon, we also found those years correspond and line up perfectly with the book of Ezekiel. So the book of Ezekiel has specific prophecies. The Most High says, Son of man, write this day, this year, record it. Okay? So there's many of dates throughout the book of Ezekiel, and we can show you that those dates relate to the time period of the destruction of Jerusalem historically, and significant prophecy in our day that would happen once again. Okay? That's what we're trying to show you. Okay? Is that yes, we're in it. The timeline is continuing, prophecy is continuing, but the people don't understand what the actual Bible says. They pick up the Bible, they read it for 5 minutes, and they think they know the whole book of Revelation. You know the book by the years of the king, as we explained in the previous video. That's how we could see 9/11 led perfectly, okay, to this apocalyptic time we're in now. Okay, so later in the video, we're going to talk about the 6 proofs that we're in the tribulation. But in this video, we're talking about the years of Ezekiel. We're going to do another video after this, by which we're going to further explain the great importance of the 10th month, the 4th month, and the 5th month, okay, leading to the destruction of the first temple. Now, many of those prophecies also led to the destruction of the second temple, okay, in 70 AD, on the 9th of Av, precisely, okay? So you can see that there's a pattern and structure of the prophecy when Christ warned his disciples, when you see Jerusalem surrounded, get out. Yeah, so the disciples recognized that and said, okay, this is happening, we better get out. Rome is coming, so they didn't perish. And that's the same thing in our day. We should recognize Babylon. We should recognize the prophecy to prepare ourselves. Many of you are not prepared at all with the things we're dealing with. Many of them have actually never happened before. So it's learn as you go. Okay, but we teach prophecy here so that you know the time. Okay, the prophecy is hidden from the wicked. Daniel said, okay, the wicked will not understand, okay, but the wise will wash their garments, okay, and they will understand. We must repent. We must cleanse our garments in preparation for Christ and his coming. And we must understand the prophecy. So we have a lot of notes. One of the things I just want to demonstrate as we talk about later in the video with the examples of the proof. We've shown you before, we have our menorah, and our menorah is a witness. We know in the menorah, there are almond blossoms. Those almond blossoms are the eclipses. Okay, so those eclipses will give us a timetable. The blood moon is the center. Okay, and then it continues through a sequence of solar and lunar eclipses that happen 6 months apart. Okay, so that's why we put this together as a demonstration to show you this is a witness to the timetable. Now, guys, the purpose of the timetable is not to be a prophet, not to say, okay, this is going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. I'm not a prophet. I'm just a person reading the Bible like you. Now, the Bible does tell us these things so that we would watch, as Christ said, okay? And the purpose is not to be precisely exact with every interpretation of you of prophecy. The purpose is to tell you the prophecy is at hand, okay? The Christians don't know any of these things. All they know is the rapture, and they look for the rapture. It doesn't happen, then they go back to sleep. And because they don't know all the circumstances that surround the prophecy. So then they think, oh, it didn't happen. It's going to happen next year. It's going to happen in 5 years. It's going to happen 10 years. The purpose of this exercise and all this teaching that we do over and over is to tell you the prophecy is at hand. It's now. It's not in 5 years. It's not in 10 years. Now, if it doesn't happen this year, okay, we're close. We're within years. We're within days. We're within months, okay? So don't get mad at me. Leland, you said, the 2 witnesses would die in Jerusalem. Well, we were watching for that, yes. That was one view of it, okay? You said the 1,335 days. You said the woman, yes, I believe those things happened. I believe that happened. Was it the resurrection? It could have been, okay, but it wasn't. So that's why you watch, okay? You watch these things. You educate yourself, you learn. So you learn about the king's timeline. You learn about the prophecy when you see the blood moon and the sun turn to sackcloth. Those are eclipses. So Christ clearly said that there will be eclipses to watch for. All right. He clearly said, okay, listen to Daniel, the prophet. Okay, when you see these things spoken by Daniel, the prophet, well, we have to look at the book of Daniel. Daniel has to tell us Revelation. Revelation has to tell us Daniel. Okay? And both of which talk about these significant things. We'll get to in the next video about the 10th month, 4th month, 5th month. This video, we're going to show you and focus on Ezekiel. Okay, now as we get into Ezekiel, there is one concept and construct in the book of Ezekiel in his years. Now, in his years in the book of Ezekiel, it's going to relate to King Zedekiah, like we talked about in the previous video. So that the year of Ezekiel is the year of Zedekiah. Okay, so those are going to correspond. All right, now let's call this the book of Ezekiel. That corresponds with Jeremiah 52. Now, the book of Ezekiel also corresponds with the book of Esther. At the end of the book of Esther, the year of the king, the Feast of Purim happens in the 12th year. Ezekiel uses this 12th year several times, 3 or 4 times in the prophecy. Now, when he does, we've taught you guys that once we know these years of the king, if you subtract those 12 years and you go back 3.5 years, the Antichrist will be revealed. Okay? And we found that through Ezekiel. Now, we couldn't prove precisely that all the years in Ezekiel were the years of the king, of Revelation, of the 14 years of the prophecy. But now we can, in this video, because we're going to show you in this video how we know the precise years of the book of Ezekiel. Okay? Now, in those years, Ezekiel talked about the 12th year. And then he's talking about the Antichrist, and he said the sun will be turned darkened, and the stars will hold their shining. Well, that is the fourth trumpet. Okay, so what you do is at the 12th year, and you subtract the 3.5 years, you come prophetically to the fourth trumpet. And that's the point by which the Antichrist was revealed. Okay? We'll explain that through charts and graphs at the end of the video. All right, now let's get into our notes and look at how do we know the book of Ezekiel, the years that are recorded are the years of the king. Now, when we talk about the king's timeline, what we're talking about is a combination of 3 books in the Bible. Okay? One of them is the book of Esther. In the book of Esther, the king, his years relate to the book of Revelation. As well, as we explained in the last video, Jeremiah chapter 52. That also proves this. Now, what we're explaining in this video is the book of Ezekiel also shows what we're showing you here, which is called the king's timeline. So that the prophecy of what happened historically would repeat, and not only that, the precise year, month, and date would be repeated. Now, I'll show you something interesting. You see here, biblical bulla or seals. These are scribes, the sons of Scripture. Now you can see here, belonging to Baruch. Okay? Now Baruch is Jeremiah's scribe. So in the book of Jeremiah, particularly Jeremiah chapter 45, Baruch is the scribe that's writing down, okay, and reciting the prophecy from Jeremiah, found in archaeology. Okay, so that means that book of Jeremiah, the scroll is released in our day. Okay, now one of the things that's in that scroll is the prophecy related to King Zedekiah. That's what we explained in the previous video. So that certain years and certain things happen, okay, according to a schedule, guys. It's a schedule. This is not Leland's timeline. You can see 3 books in the Bible all say the same years. Okay? Hopefully that's clear. Now, the book of Esther basically explains this as 3 years of the king. The king sits on the throne. 3 years. He holds a feast, 180 days. That's 3.5 years. The king invites Vashti. She doesn't come. She's divorced. Then 2 years. After she's divorced, they gather the virgins to the Shushan palace. Esther is prepared. And when she's prepared for 1 year, at the conclusion of which we come to the Revelation 12 sign, okay, completing 7 years. So she's brought before the king in the 7th year. Then what happens is, in the book of Esther, Haman comes into picture. All right. Now, in the previous video, we had explained that when Haman comes in the picture, we have the Antichrist, and we have all that. There's another figure called Zedekiah. Zedekiah is the king of Judah, representing the prime minister of Israel. So his timetable is actually the same. He has the same time period here where he becomes king. He's king those same years. And the main aspect of his prophecy comes up in the 9th year and the 11th year of King Zedekiah. Okay, so we saw that in the previous video. We saw that the years prior to that would have led to 9/11, which led to Zedekiah, which led to when Zedekiah was captured. That's the same time that Netanyahu was taken out as prime minister, fulfilling perfectly that prophetic role of Zedekiah. Now, once we were able to identify that, then what we could do is say, we have the proof in the book of Ezekiel now. Why? Because what happened in the book of Ezekiel is Ezekiel, he begins his prophecy in Ezekiel chapter 1. In Ezekiel chapter 1 and verse 1, this is what we begin to see. We begin to see in the prophecy that the king's timeline comes into focus. Now, it comes into focus because there's a king prior to Zedekiah. His name is Jehoiachin, or Yehoiachin. And what happened is he replaced Zedekiah. Okay, so our Netanyahu, our Zedekiah figure prior to him is this guy, and he was replaced. Now, when he was replaced, Jehoiachin, he goes into captivity in Babylon. So that first year of Jehoiakim's captivity is the same year as Zedekiah. Okay, so the guy is still alive. He doesn't die. They don't kill him. They take him to Babylon. So when they take him to Babylon, Ezekiel, what he does, all right, is he's taken to Babylon the same time. Now, in our time period, what we have here is this is the book of Esther. And the king of the book of Esther, he sits on the throne 3 years. Okay, then he has a feast 6 months. So that's 3.5 years after. Now, what happens is we identify this as 2010. So 2010 is our first year of Zedekiah, and it's our first year of the captivity of Jehoiakim. Okay? Now, then what happens in the book of Esther, the king holds a feast 3.5 years. Then he divorces Vashti, and the seals of the book of Revelation open. All right? That's the time period here that we just explained is after 2014. Then we have the blood moons, the 4 blood moons, okay? And that's when the horse riders are released, all right? Now, that is 2014. Now, then what we find out is the book of Ezekiel begins. So Ezekiel's ministry and his prophecy now is coming into focus. All right, so we get the book of Ezekiel because he tells us, all right, there it is, 2015, in the 5th year of Jehoiakim's captivity. So his 5th year is what? It's 2015, because that's the same as Zedekiah's 5th year, okay? Then it says the 5th day of the 4th month. Then Ezekiel, he sees the Lamb's throne, and this is the same throne in Revelation 6:16 through 7:1, where John sees 4 angels standing holding the 4 winds, okay? Ezekiel sees that throne. He sees it and he sees the cherubim. He sees the wheels. He sees it in vivid detail, more than any prophet described. So this prophetically, okay, represents a fulfillment in our day, okay? So in our day, this, as we explained in the calendar, is the year 2015. So in the year 2015, you can see what it says, the 5th day of the 4th month. Okay, so here's the 4th month, and here's the 5th day. So to give you an idea, this will be June 21st, okay, 2015. Now I want you to notice here, if you look closely, see how it says Ezekiel? Well, that if you take the J out, it's Ezekiel. Okay, so this is the priest courses. So the day before the 5th day of the 4th month, you actually have Ezekiel's name. Okay, this is how the calendar is amazing. So he would have served in the temple actually the prior days, but just the day before the 5th day of the 4th month, that Ezekiel, begins his prophecy. The priest course of Ezekiel, okay, is ministering in the temple. Amazing. So what does this mean? The 5th day of the 4th month. Why that day? What's significance? There's no feast there. What's going on? Well, this is well before, guys, the temple is destroyed. That Ezekiel is in Babylon, but we don't know exactly all of the prophecy leading up to it as clearly. Jeremiah, of course, is prophesying at this time as well, but this is significant for us because when Ezekiel sees this date is a warning to us to watch for the 9th of Av, okay? Because later on in the prophecy, we learn that the 9th of Av follows this 4th month, okay? And that's when the temple is destroyed. But for us watching in 2015, when we knew this prophecy, okay, in 2015, we couldn't prove exactly these dates until we can now. We were watching for the 9th day of the 5th month, the 9th of Ab. What is it? The host is trodden. That was July 25th. So on July 25th, 2015, it triggered Daniel's timeline. All right, so this is our next proof that the tribulation has begun, is that Daniel gave us a trigger event. It was July 25th, 2015, which counts the days leading to the Revelation 12 sign and the 7-year tribulation. Then what happens is you have 1,290 days, okay? And those lead to the daily sacrifice being taken. Okay? Now, before we share with you that what we're watching for is November 10th, 2021. That's our next step in this prophecy. Okay? So that's what we're watching. We're watching to see what happens. We're watching, guys. Okay? And then at the conclusion of this, okay, then you have the conclusion of the 7 years. Now, guys, if the prophecy goes beyond that, that's okay. We have no problem, because we know the time is at hand. We know that the Most High does not have to fulfill little pieces of paper and drawings and sketches like this. Okay? He's in control. He's sitting on the white throne, not Leland Jones. So, but he's shown us all these things in the Bible to watch, so that we would know the time is at hand. And that is the purpose of this channel, is to show you the time is at hand. Okay? You can know. You don't have to be ignorant of the times that we're living in. That's what we're trying to say over and over. All right, now that leads us to something else very significant in Ezekiel's prophecy. So we can see that 5th year is when Ezekiel begins his prophecy. So what happens is the book of Ezekiel will record that date in verse 1 of chapter 1. Then our next place is Ezekiel chapter 8, where he records another year. This is the 6th year, and on the 5th day of the 6th month. Okay, so now you have the 6th year, the 6th month, and the 5th day. And essentially what we're getting at here is that Ezekiel sees what we know in the book of Revelation, Revelation 2:9 and 3:9. Christ talks about the synagogue of Satan. So that's the Sanhedrin, their underground assembly that we showed you. Okay, so this is 2016. That's our 6th year. Okay, the 6 relates to 2016. So he sees the underground synagogue, which was dedicated the next year in 2017. And this is what we showed you in 2018. When we saw the synagogue, we said, guys, this is it. This is the synagogue of Satan. This is Ezekiel chapter 8, fulfilling perfectly the seats, the whole layout, everything underground, okay, hidden by the wall, by the western wall, okay. So Ezekiel sees that prophetically in the 7th year. The next year, it actually happens. Amazing. Then we come to 2017. So Ezekiel talks about the 7th year. So the 7th year is 2017, and then he says the 10th day of the 5th month. And the elders were assembled. Now this is our warning of the 9th of Av. Okay, so now the 9th of Av hasn't happened yet, but the Most High instructs them to write this date because it would happen, it will be fulfilled in the future as a warning to the 9th of Av. Now, what happened 2017? Okay, it was Esther was crowned. Okay, now Esther was crowned, okay, in the 10th month. Okay, so she was crowned in the 10th month, but Esther was crowned in the 7th year. Okay, so we got the 7th year here. So then that brings us to Ezekiel's next prophecy is the 9th year. Well, 9th year is 2019, and he says the 10th day of the 10th month. Now, what happens here is we now have a precise year relating to Zedekiah. Now, this column here is Zedekiah. Zedekiah is the king of Judah in Jeremiah 52. And so in Jeremiah 52, Zedekiah is our Netanyahu. Okay, so he's our Netanyahu. And this date, the 10th day of the 10th month, is the beginning of the siege of Jerusalem. So this starts, guys, the siege of Jerusalem. So this starts, and for us, this is December. And this December is coronavirus. This is coronavirus. Okay, it's the siege of Jerusalem. The people are locked into their houses. Okay, the siege happens over the whole world after Wuhan, China. That was precisely the 10th day of 10th month. It was Christmas. There was a solar eclipse, okay, over China. That is this prophecy, guys. Now, what had already happened is the last sacrifice took place in 2019 in Passover. So now what's happening, by this time, the daily sacrifice is taken away, guys. Amazing. So daily sacrifice is taken away, major prophecy in Daniel 8. And a month later, okay, even just a few weeks later, we get the peace deal. Netanyahu goes to Babylon, signs a peace deal with the Antichrist. Perfectly. All right, so there you can see how our Zedekiah Netanyahu figure has the daily sacrifice taken away and does the peace deal, just like Zedekiah. We shared you that in the previous video. But what we're talking about here is the book of Ezekiel, and how the book of Ezekiel, the dates, okay, and the years correspond perfectly to the prophecy. Now, what you can do is you can read the various chapters in between each of these dates. They may or may not relate to the actual prophecy taking place in the book of Revelation and elsewhere. Okay? But we come to our next one is the 10th year. And so in the 10th year, we have the 12th day of the 10th month. The mark of the beast is released. Okay, this is the mark of the beast being released. Haman in the book of Esther makes war against the saints. Okay, now you have the vaccine. So the vaccine is the mark of the beast, and this is marking that date historically. And so then that's the 10th year. Now we get to 11th year. That's the year 2021, the year we are in now. And it says the 7th day of the first month. Okay. And what this, you can see that in Ezekiel 30. And then it says the first day of the third month, which is Pentecost. Okay. So this year, Pentecost is what we were really watching for. This is the culmination of many things. So what happened here is the scribes in the book of Esther were assembled. Mordecai was honored, okay, just prior to this. And the scribes were assembled to reverse Haman's decree. So Haman issued a decree against the war against the saints, and then it's reversed. Well, during this time, then what happened on the 9th day of the 4th month after Pentecost, shortly thereafter, Netanyahu is out as prime minister. So when Netanyahu's out as prime minister of Israel, it's a sign Netanyahu is our prophetic Zedekiah, because Zedekiah goes captive on the 9th day of the 4th month. Okay? So there was the 11th year of Zedekiah, his 11th year. The famine was going, okay, a year and a half, and Zedekiah is captured. When Zedekiah is captured, he's our Netanyahu. Okay? Then shortly after, okay, then what we will come to is the 10th day of the 5th month, and this is the temple, the church, destroyed, okay? So the apostate church, the Babylon church, okay, is our sign that Babylon is fallen, the apostate church is fallen. Just like Vashti was divorced, we are the temple. Well, the sign of the temple being destroyed is the mark of the beast, people worshiping the beast, the great falling away. Okay, and our sign of this was the Taliban. We explained the manufactured enemy in the previous video. So the Taliban is circling Afghanistan altogether, and then they circle Kabul and take Kabul shortly after the 9th of Av this year. Okay, being our sign and indicator that these prophecies are continuing. Now, our next kind of stop, we come to the 12th year. Now, our 12th year is the year 2022. Okay, so now what we're doing is we've covered where our present time is. We can look back and we can see historically how the prophecy was fulfilled. Now what we can do is begin to look forward as what it says. Now, it may not happen exactly the way we think, guys, but we're watching, okay? This is why we share this information with you, so you can watch, all right? If, okay, it continues, then we can continue to watch and we can see things being fulfilled. Now, pay close attention to what I'm about to tell you. I've taught this before, but very few people understood how, I was able to say the certain things about the Antichrist being revealed. So here you can see the 12th year is the year 2022. Then Ezekiel talks about the 5th day of the 10th month. And then he talks about the first day and the 15th day of the 12th month. So here you can see 3 separate prophecies for year 2022. Okay? 1 in the 10th month and 2 in the 12th month. Now, the 15th day of the 12th month is Purim. Okay, so this is Purim. So Esther chapter 9 and 10, they talk about Purim, the 15th day of the 12th month in the 12th year. So Esther, the book of Esther specifically says, guys, the 12th year, and the 15th day of the 12th month. Ezekiel says the same exact thing. Perfect alignment. All right? Now, the reason we said that the Antichrist must be revealed, he must be revealed 42 months or 3.5 years prior to this Purim, because this is representing the death of the Antichrist. So if that's the end of the Antichrist and that's when he dies, we subtract 3.5 years from that time, and that's how we determine when he's revealed, the beginning of his 42 months, the beginning of his 3.5 years, okay? So this is the judgment of the beast. Ezekiel says this specifically in Ezekiel 32. And as we explained in the book of Esther, in Esther, this is when Haman and the enemies are killed. Okay, and when the feast of Purim is celebrated as a sign of the wedding supper of the Lamb. Okay, now we're not saying that next year is the wedding supper of the Lamb. These are, types and shadows of things. But it was from this date that we said, all right, well, if this is right, okay, if we see other things right, like we're proving to you in this video, that if we subtract those 3.5 years, then the Antichrist will be revealed. And that's when exactly when Trump said, to the day, I am the chosen one. And the other guy said he is the second coming of Christ, or the second coming of God, okay, specifically. So let's just show you how that looks here, okay? So let's just, work through this, guys. Be patient. So you get the 12th year. That's the year 2022. So you can see we have here, if you look closely, I'll zoom in, you see Antichrist is killed. So Antichrist is killed towards the end of that 12th year. Towards the Purim is at the end of the year. It's the 12th month, okay? So then what we're saying is, okay, well, if that's the case, well, then he would be revealed prior to that, okay? And the Antichrist, he will be revealed prior over here towards in 2019, in the 9th year, okay? Now, the book of Ezekiel actually says this. It says it in an interesting way, but it talks about the judgment, and it says the sun will be darkened, okay? And the moon won't give it a light, and the stars will withdraw their shining over him. Well, you can see that's exactly what it says here, as it's related to the fourth trumpet. A third of the stars, sun, moon, and stars a third of them is darkened. So that's an indicator that in our fourth trumpet, okay, that's when the Antichrist is revealed. So Ezekiel says that, guys. If you look at it, you can see that's what it says. I think it's... I can't remember the exact, I'll make a note of where that is, but that's how we knew when the Antichrist would be revealed, is from the book of Esther, okay, and we also said it, guys, we also said it was the book of Ezekiel. We had 2 witnesses on that. Now, it's very important that we have multiple witnesses when we do this. So we saw, okay, the Antichrist, if he dies there, that's the conclusion of the matter. Well, then it will be 42 months prior, and that's when he's revealed, okay? And that's how we could say the precise date, because Purim is a precise date. It's a feast. It's on a precise day. It's the 15th day of the 12th month, as you clearly see, okay? So that's what we could see, 15th day, 12th month in the book of Ezekiel. Not only that, not only the day, the month, but the year. Precise. Perfect. In the book of Ezekiel, okay? And the book of Esther talking about the same thing. So that's why, guys, this is not Leland's timeline, okay? Now, if I'm wrong, or if the things don't work out exactly the way, we expect in the future, that's okay. It's going to happen. Everything in the Bible is going to happen, okay? Now, earlier in the video, we told you we will give you multiple witnesses. We'll give you 6 witnesses that were in the tribulation. Okay, now in this time period, you can see it here. This is 2010, and then it's counting down. This is also 2010. All right, now, we first showed you the menorah shows us a sequence of eclipses. Okay, and those eclipses predominantly bring our attention to the 4 blood moons in 2014. So that's here. These go in a sequence in order of eclipses, marking significant events. Now, What are our multiple witnesses? Okay, our multiple witnesses, number one, the book of Esther shows us the precise timeline of 3.5 years. When the king sits upon his throne, he divorces Vashti. The king is angry, opening the seals. The virgins are gathered. Esther is crowned, all happening in 7-year period. Okay, we apply that to 2017, when Esther's crown is precisely the Revelation 12 sign, September 22nd, 2017, beginning the 7-year tribulation. Daniel's timeline also proves this. We explained to you earlier that July 25th was the 9th of Av in the year 2015. That's a trigger event that counts. You can see here, 790 days. Okay, see that? 790 days from July 25th to September 22nd, 2017. Then there's 220 days. That gets us to April 30th, 2018. After that, you count 1,290 days. That's November 10th. And then after that, you count the additional days, bringing us to August 16th in the year 2024. Okay? So that's why we keep saying it is a 14-year king's timeline. You see this in the book of Esther, as we explained, that Purim and Haman, all right, Haman is killed, his 10 sons relating to the 10 kings. That's in the 12th year, the year 2022. So when that happens, that's why you go back 42 months and you backtrack the 42 months. That would be when Haman is revealed. He's revealed in the Antichrist 3.5 years prior to the 12th year. Okay? All right, so what are our witnesses? We got the book of Esther. We have the prophet Daniel. We have the solar and lunar eclipses. Okay? Now, in this video, in the previous video, we've also explained to you, it says here, Zedekiah. So Zedekiah also proves to us a timetable, all right, in Zedekiah's 9th year, 10th day of the 10th month, coronavirus, the siege of Jerusalem. Then, the 9th day of the 4th month, Benjamin Netanyahu is captured as Zedekiah. He's out as prime minister, okay, within days. Then we have the 10th day of the 5th month, or we have the 9th of Av, and Babylon is fallen. Okay, so Zedekiah is our next witness. All right, and we have, further other witnesses of things being fulfilled as it relates to seeing some of the trumpets, some of the bowls already being fulfilled. Okay, so we're just saying, guys, these are all the witnesses. These are all the proof. We have the book of Ezekiel. We have the book of Jeremiah. We have the book of Esther giving us all the king's timeline. We have the book of Daniel. Okay, we are seeing already many of the things, okay, if we look at them, already fulfilled. The Cyrus decree, Donald Trump moves the U.S. Embassy. Daily sacrifice taken away. The peace deal, okay? The mark of the beast. These are all very, very significant prophecies, and the Christians still can't see it. They're still waiting for something to happen. They're still waiting for the Antichrist to be revealed when it already happened. All right? And then you get the abomination of desolation. Okay, that's our November 10th. And there's a lunar eclipse, November 18th. Okay? And we're watching for that. Now, that's not what we're not saying, that there's already a third temple right now. It could be underground, in the underground synagogue. Sure enough, we're watching. It also means they give the sanctuary. It could be giving the sanctuary, okay? We'll watch. We'll see. Most likely something will happen that we didn't expect, but something will happen, okay? So, guys, that's our conclusion. This is the various charts and graphs we've shared with the people to help explain, not Leland's timeline, but as you can see, the Bible itself explains a timeline. Explains through the book of Esther, explains through the book of Jeremiah, explains now we're showing you in the book of Ezekiel. So in the book of Ezekiel, as I said, I'll make the notes available to you. Definitely get the notes as well to the previous video, okay, where we talk about September 11 and the trigger event of the king of Babylon, counting the years to come to the time period we are now. Okay, it was a trigger event, September 11th. So guys, thanks for watching. Fear God, give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come. Worship him that made the heavens, the earth, the seas, and the fountains of waters. Amen.